everybody. How y'all doing? Hope everybody's doing very well. Very well, very well. I'm doing great. Today, I was like very sleepy, but here I am. Very sleepy because I got up early this morning. I mean, it was actually really refreshing to get up early in the morning again, like I used to pre-pregnancy. But getting up early in the morning, spending time in prayer, spending time in your word, studying, journaling, just getting quiet, it really does set the tone for your day. Like, when I get up and I pray in the morning, I am like so much more relaxed and so much more like at peace. Like, I almost got into a car accident 3 times today, guys. 3 different cars all tried to hit me today. So I'm just like, alrighty then. Well, there has to be something in the works that's getting ready to happen for me. And so I needed to learn how to rest. And so I got up super early this morning and just rested in prayer, rested in reading my word, rested in just taking some time to journal. It was awesome. And so, as you can see by the title, it may be a little jarring to some people, but I think it's a necessary conversation that needs to be had, because there's a lot of people and their children that are experiencing this or has experienced it, and they don't have freedom from it, and they need it desperately because it is holding them back from being who God called them to be. For the sake of context, I will not be using any names because this topic actually does involve some people that I still have a relationship with. It's in some way, shape, or form. You know, we're not cool like we used to be back then, but still, just for the nature of the conversation, we're talking about how I was introduced to sexuality and then homosexuality, to sex and then homosexuality. A lot of children tend to spend a lot of time with other children, and unfortunately, we always think that children being introduced to sex comes from an adult. You would think, right? It comes from an adult. It comes from an older teen or something like that. But the truth of the matter is, being introduced to sex comes from anywhere. You can literally turn the TV on now and ad comes up, you've been introduced to sex. You can turn a phone on, be playing Candy Crush. Something as innocent as Candy Crush. I think they don't have as many ads now, but any of the little games that the kids have downloaded on like their tablets and things like that, if they're not ad free, your child is more susceptible to being introduced to sex prematurely. And so this is why I want to have this conversation, because I have 4 children and 1 on the way by the grace of God. And I have realized how many encounters with sex I had before the age of, I think my earliest encounter that I can remember, I had to be about 4, around 4 years old. And this is no slack to my parents. It wasn't that they weren't watching us. It wasn't that they didn't necessarily do their part as a parent, so to say. What I will say is, you can only go as far as your knowledge has grown, right? And so when you know how the enemy moves, when you think your child is safe with kids their own age, you're not thinking about, oh, my child is going to experience child-on-child sexual interactions or sexual abuse or anything like that. And so what I'm getting ready to talk about tonight, it dates back not just to my experience, but my parents' experience that they've shared with me over the years. And, you know, not to go into grave detail, but to just share with you guys that one way, shape, or form or another, a lot of us have been introduced to sex, sexuality, or homosexuality at a very young age. And it, unbeknownst to us, can linger on into our adulthood. And unfortunately, if it goes unchecked or undealt with, it leaves an open door to the enemy. And so the reason why I say open doors, because I talked recently, last week, about how yoga gave me open doors, opened up a lot of doors that took a lot of time to close and to dismantle, and, you know, all those good things. And so what I want people to understand today is that you literally, it takes 1 second for an impression to be put inside of your mind as a child, as an adult, as a teenager, whatever the case may be. And that's what happened with me. I was about 5 years old, and I had a friend of the family come over, and we were hanging out and stuff like that. And then she was like, "Oh, let's play this game." And I was like, "Okay, you know, I'm a little girl, and, you know, this is what you do. You hang out, you play games, and, you know, that's what you do, right?" And so the game involved us fondling each other, being naked, in the bed with each other, lying with one another as if we were a married couple. Now, we were like 5 and 6, 7 years old as the time progressed on. But right before that had happened, I was introduced to it another way. We had someone staying with us. Our family had somebody staying with us, had another family staying with us, and they had a young boy. He was around the same age as I am. I don't know the exact timelines, but I do know that I had to be about 5 or 6 years old, like I mentioned. So that first encounter with the girl was right after this encounter with the boy. And so with the boy, he would come into my room, because remember, they lived with us at the time. He would come into my room, and he would get in my bed and he would cuddle me, right? He would spoon me at 5 and 6 years old, and begin to fondle me at that age. And so when I shared it with, I think I shared it with my oldest brother, God rest his soul. I shared it with him, and they like beat the little boy up or something. Like, I don't know what happened to the kid, but I know shortly after they ended up moving out of our house, right? Now, mind you, this is not an adult that I had this encounter with. This is another young boy, which means he probably had the same encounter, and he is just, or he saw it somewhere, and he is just reenacting out what was done on him, or what he saw done to someone else, whether it was a movie, TV show, or whatever the case may be. He just turned around and did the same thing. And so I don't hold any malice or unforgiveness towards that person, because he was just as young as I was, right? If anything, I am most concerned that he is getting the actual help that he needs now. And hopefully it has not escalated past that point. But before then, there were some signs from him that would indicate that, hey, something is going on here. And if you're watching and paying attention as an adult, you can kind of pick up on those signs. But if you don't know what the signs are, then you're not going to pick up on those signs, and you're not going to think, oh, let me keep this young boy separate from my daughters, right? And so one of the signs that he had was he was, hunching on like teddy bears and stuff like that. As crazy as it might sound, there was some type of arousal that was stimulating him and causing him to be drawn to wanting to have sex. Now, granted, most men, most boys, men are hardwired for sex. Okay, let's just put that out there. Men are hardwired for sex, and this is also why men have to learn what sex is for. They have to learn how to not only view a woman or young girl as a object of their affection or an object of their, to get off on. I don't know how else to say it. I'm not trying to be cute about it. Like, the truth of the matter is, we have to teach our boys and our young men as they grow up, and hold them accountable to say, hey, we know that you are hardwired for this need, because it's not just a want and a desire, it is a need for a man. And so if that is awakened before its time, it's going to be perverted. And so ultimately he had a spirit of perversion on him. And that spirit of perversion was just looking to find another avenue to come into pervert as well. And so when it came down to it and they lived with us, he went from hunching on teddy bears to, oh, there's a girl in the room, I'm attracted to her, let me hunch on her. And I'm just like, oh, you're not supposed to be in here. What you doing? You're not supposed to be in here. This is not right. This is weird. I'm going to tell my mama or tell my daddy. I didn't end up telling my parents, because if a kid doesn't even know how to articulate what's going on, how do they say, mommy, this person did this? Even if you've had to talk with a kid, sometimes I used to use words with my kids, like, when I was doing daycare before I had my own children, I would use words like, did this person hurt you? Did they harm you? And sometimes, unfortunately, it may not have hurt them as much as it may have impacted them. And so when we are talking to our kids, and we're talking to young adults, the youth, we have to be very descriptive. We have to be very straight to the point. Sometimes we don't think that they can handle it, but the truth of the matter is they can. And so when it came around to me having my kids, and my daughter ended up having a similar encounter with a female in her classroom, she immediately was like, mommy, somebody touched my yoni. And at the time we called it yoni because I was foolish and I didn't know what a yoni was. A yoni is, has something to do with like the fertility goddess and all this other stuff. Anyway, at the time that's what we called it, because she was like 2 or 3 years old. So it made sense to her, instead of just me just calling it a vagina, which is what it is. We made up a name for it. And parents, I don't advise you to make up names for your children's body parts. Make it very clear to them, so that when something comes up, God forbid, that they can know, hey, no, this is not a safe touch. This is not and so we had to go through the whole spiel of, okay, this is not safe. And so she knew it. And so immediately after it happened, she came to me. She said, mommy, this little girl touched my vagina. Now, at this time, the bathrooms were in the same room. In the same bathroom. It was 2 stalls, of course. It's a little kid's bathroom. She was in daycare. And she was going to pull her pants up, and the little girl, I guess, came over and she touched her vagina. And so I'm like, okay, oh Lord, here it comes again. Here it comes, the cycle trying to come back around. And like I mentioned, I had a girl, she was like a cousin. You know how you had those your parents' friends, and you've known them for a long time, and they become aunties, and their kids become your cousins because you spend a lot of time together. So we had cousins like that. And, when me and her used to come together and play and stuff like that, or we're playing house, or we're doing this, or we're doing that, it's seemingly innocent. But the truth of the matter is, the enemy is using our ignorance and our innocence to take advantage, to plant seeds, to cause you to be confused when you get older. And so for a very long time, I used to have these sexual desires towards women, but I didn't want them, right? So I was like, I would suppress. And then it got to the point as I got older that I would begin to have dreams of me sleeping with women. And then it came to a point where I was in, I think right after high school, and I ended up doing something inappropriate with a female friend. And I was like, right after that, I was like, oh, I don't want to feel this way. and it's not because I feel like I'm going to be judged or it was a personal choice at a young age that I did not want this for myself. My parents never talked to us about homosexuality. They never made us feel bad, never made anybody that I know around them feel bad if they were homosexual or whatever the case may be. They never really discussed homosexuality in like a negative light. Like, my parents have always been very transparent with people that were homosexual, and so I was just like, okay, this is at this point, it is my own personal conviction. It had nothing to do with anybody else. And a lot of people would try to be like, oh, well, you were born gay, you were born this way, you were born that. Listen, y'all, as a believer, don't believe the lies of the enemy, because it is a farce. It is a farce to believe that a person is born gay. Like, it just, okay, not all people that are gay have experienced a sexual trauma at a young age. I mean, I'm probably gonna get an X for this, but some of them are just greedy. Okay, you know, you want both. But at the end of the day, it wasn't my case. My case was, I did not want these desires, and I knew that they weren't mine, but I couldn't pinpoint where they came from. And so as I got older, as I started to develop a relationship with the Lord and start to understand like my dream life, and started to understand, you know, just going through childhood development classes and going through the different daycares that I worked for, and just seeing patterns and different things like that, I began to realize like, oh snap, something was inserted into my identity. Right? And when you look over your life, you can literally, God will show you a timeline. He will show you a timeline of what has happened in your life when you are ready to understand it, and when you're seeking for it, and when you're looking for it. And so I went seeking for it, and I went looking for it, because when I got married to Arkeem, we were good in like our first couple of years of marriage, but then it was like this hard block where with intimacy, we literally just, I could not have sex. I could not have sex with my husband, and I wanted to. Like, literally wanted to have sex with my husband. And so I realized, you know, after learning more about the spiritual realm, that there were spirit spouses, the incubus and succubus, different types of demons and things like that, that were actually having sex with me in my sleep, which made it impossible for me to have sex with my husband when I was awake. And so I would literally wake up to, I would be so horny when I woke up, but it wouldn't be for my husband. So it was like, okay, this is not normal. Where did this come from? So going all the way back, I had that first introduction with the young boy that lived with us. Then I had the first introduction to sex, right? Then the second introduction to homosexuality with the girl cousin. And it's so crazy because I got with a group of other ladies at one point, and I don't know why for the life of me, but I was like, yeah, have you guys ever, you know, like had like a family member or a friend or something like that where you've had a like a sexual encounter with? And they all was like, oh my gosh, me and my girl cousin literally used to fool around too when we were younger, but we knew that it was not right. Oh man. I was like, oh, so it's not just me. I'm not crazy. And so I began to like open up the dialogue about it with other people, and I started to notice a trend. And so in this trend, children are normally being left with friends and family members around their same age, even some that are maybe like 5 or 6 years older than them. So like you'll have an 8-year-old boy with a 14-year-old boy cousin, and something like that happens then. Listen, an 8-year-old boy and a 14-year-old boy do not have much in common. Okay, yes, they are still young, but it's a reason why schools have different age groups. Okay, and when I went through my Department of Children and Families educational course, they broke down what happens in each age group and why you keep the different age groups separate. Okay. So if you have a kid, so like my son is 8, like anything over 2 years, you're not going to be alone with them. Period. Like, I don't care. It can be the same, it happens with the same age group too, but the chances are a lot higher when you have someone that is like 4 or 5 or 6 years older than your kid. So just be mindful of that, right? But in those different developmental stages, as a child, you're exploring things, you're learning things, you're developing your identity. Okay. And we all know once you get to a certain point with kids, if any of you have kids or been around kids will begin to learn who they are, and they will begin to, like the old people used to say, oh, you smell yourself. You smelling yourself now, right? Well, that's because you grabbed a hold to an identity, but we need to make sure that you have grabbed a hold to an identity that was made for you. Because like I mentioned, the enemy inserted something into my identity that was not for me. And I am just here to shed light on it and just to bring awareness to how regular child on child abuse happens. Now, I've even had a situation where my daughter was 2 and my son, Ace, was 4, and there was a time where he like pulled her pants down in front of her other little cousins when we were over their house. But where were they? They were playing upstairs, right? At this time, I wasn't thinking about it. I'm like, oh, well, they're safe. They're here. I'm here. I periodically checked in on the kids, but just that quick, right? He pulled her pants down in front of the other little boys and was like this to her private parts, right? Like mushing it around like that. And I'm thinking, like, why would he do that? Where did he get that from? And so as me and my husband talked about it, we realized that my husband has had an encounter on his side. I have had an encounter on my side. And these are things that we didn't talk about before we got married. Okay, we started talking about all this stuff after we got married, after we started having kids. It's important to know your history, your spouse's history, because it is literally a spirit that will follow your spouse. And remember when I told you in my video about yoga, I had open doors, and those open doors gave the enemy legal access not only to my life, but to my children. So as I began to, do some more research and start to understand things, I started to make some huge changes. I started to just do some things that would help prevent situations like this from happening, right? So I educated myself, I educated my kids, but then what I didn't do was pray against the root cause. And the root cause was a spirit of perversion, a spirit of incest. And we see that through the Bible, situations where there was incest. And I think it was Tamar and her brother. He raped his sister. And then you have other instances where the Bible talks about a man laying with another man, like a woman, like he would a woman, and how it's an abomination. So all of these things are starting to add up, and I'm seeing it play out in my life. And so I begin to ask the Lord, like, okay, what do we do about this? How do I fix this? You literally just have to be straight up and honest about where you have been. And so, like I said, when I went through that as a young child, it followed me up until like maybe 4 or 5 years ago, where I was like, I've had enough. I'm not going to keep going through this in my dreams. I'm not going to keep having issues in my marriage because I can't be intimate with another man because that has been violated. Like, I can't keep dealing with this. And so I began to pray. I began to fast. I began to, the Lord started breaking things off of me. He started to open my eyes to understand and to see the signs. And, now I can't unsee it. I can't unsee it. And once God opens your eyes to it as well, you won't be able to unsee it. And so I hope you will go back and think about what you've experienced. You don't have to have had it happen to you personally for it to affect you. You could have had a friend that you were sitting next to and it was happened to, or she could have came and told you about it, and now you've absorbed that because you didn't know how to process it out and to separate it from, being a part of you. You begin to pick up on that too, and now you have another open door. So now the enemy is coming to put things on you so that he can keep you bound, because ultimately that's what the enemy was trying to do. And I would tell my husband, because I was also, when I got older, I got raped, and it was with somebody that I trusted, right? And after getting raped, when I got married to Arkeem, I remember it so vividly. One night, I was so ready to, I'm ready to be intimate with my husband. Yes, this is it. I love him. We're good. Yay, let's do this. And immediately my body locked up, because your body has muscle memory. Okay. And that muscle memory, your body remembers things even if you don't physically remember it. If you don't mentally remember it. If you don't consciously remember what happened, your body still remembers. Okay. And so it took a while for me to start to understand, like, wait a minute, I had trauma trapped in my body. So then I began to research, okay, how do I get rid of this? And then I came across this minister, and we, she helped me along the way get free. A lot of prayer, a lot of fasting, a lot of understanding who I was in Christ, understanding myself as a woman. My husband had to call some things out, and he was like, you can be very niggerish. This is exactly how he said it to me. He said, you can be very niggerish. And I was like, but when you think about it, when you take on the spirit of perversion or lust or whatever, they have different characteristics. And in my case, it brought upon some, what's it called? It brought upon some, oh, that's what it was. So what the enemy was trying to do, he was trying to lead me into a life of homosexuality, right? I would have definitely been the man in the relationship. Like, just woo! I was a little girly girl back then, but at the same token, I was very rough around the edges, and I was always ready to punch somebody and defend somebody. But God was like, that is not what I called you into. I called you into womanhood. I called you into being a woman of God, and you are not a man. Okay? I don't care what the world tried to tell you, what the world tried to tell you. I don't care what the enemy tried to put on the inside of you, because the enemy will use times like that as in childhood to drop seeds that are time released. And so though I may not have shown signs for 5, 10, 15, 20 years, by the time I get to the important season of my life, then that's when it opens up, and now I have all these other issues, and I can't even trace back to where it came from because I didn't catch it right then. I was young. And as parents, right, be bold, but not that bold. Exactly. As parents, we have to always keep our eyes on our children, because we are their hedge of protection. Okay. You can't have everybody around your kids. You can't have everybody around. You can't let them watch just anything. You can't, because you never know what the enemy is trying to expose them to, what he's trying to implant in their life. And then as they get older, you're thinking that you did something wrong as a parent, or you think that, well, maybe it's this and maybe it's that. And the enemy will distract you. He'll have you doing this, thinking it's this thing or it's that thing, or his daddy fault, his mommy fault, his grandma's fault, everybody else's fault or whatever. And you never keep your eyes on the true enemy that's behind the scene, puppeteering other people, using the close friend or the cousin. Literally, somebody could say something to your kid, like, don't whisper around my kids. Like, don't whisper to my kids. Like, don't do that. Don't do that. I don't like that. We don't do secrets. Don't be telling my kids, well, don't tell your mama. Because guess what? You'll never see them again. You'll never see them again, because what you're doing is you're, for one, causing it, you're trying to build a rapport, a demonic rapport with my child, so that at an appointed time, my child is upset with me or whatever, they're going to go and try to run to you because they feel like they have an ear with you. So don't whisper around my children. That's all I gotta say. Don't whisper around my children, because why? I can't hear it. If your intentions are pure. And some people don't even know that this is what they're doing. Some people don't even know that there's a spirit in operation through them. But we as parents, we have to stay vigilant. We have to stay on point. Not just parents, just adults, period. Because I be seeing other people's kids and I be like, don't do that. Don't do that. Nah, y'all ain't supposed to be doing that. Where your mama at? Because I need to speak to her. Okay? I've also had and I'm being very transparent with you guys, I've also had another situation with my oldest son, Ace. We were with some family members at the time, and he was probably about 9 months old. He would wake up and his penis would be, I would wake up to go change his diaper when he got up, and his penis would be hard. Like rock hard. At 6 and 8, 9 months old. Now, during this time, we were around a lot of different people. I remember coming into one of these family members' houses, and I saw this family member washing my child. They were keeping my child. They were keeping Ace for us because I was literally going through like a mental breakdown, of like psychosis or whatever you want to call it, to the point where I'm just literally like this. Just I'm like physically shut down. My mind knows what's going on. I hear everything going on. Like when they say postpartum depression is real, and I had 2 different types of depression and all the other stuff that I was already going through, the mental torment, the just all the stuff that I was going through during that time. My husband took me out just so that I can, whatever, you shake out of it. Like I literally was just like shell shocked. But I understand now that it was a spirit that was keeping me bound. But when we came back in the house, they were keeping it for us. We came back in the house and I seen him washing Ace in the sink, and it didn't sit right with me. And I instantly snapped out of it. Whatever it was going on, I instantly snapped out of it. I said, okay, we don't get to not be emotionally present. We have to be emotionally present. We have to be mentally present. We have to be well. And this is what started my journey to self-care, because I was not caring for myself. I was caring for everybody else, and I cared about what everybody else had to say. And it literally cost my son. Okay, well, the enemy thought it cost my son. He was trying to make it be something that it didn't need to be. And I instantly snapped out of it. This is why it's important to have a tribe. This is why it's important to be careful who you have children with, because, like, y'all, you have to snap out of it. You have to heal for yourself so that your children can, whatever they are going to have to deal with, they don't have to deal with yours, theirs, and grandma's stuff. Okay? Because that's what I was dealing with all at one time. And so then you add a child in here that I have to care for. And so my son will wake up with a hard on, like morning wood, at 6 months, 8 months, 9 months, 12 months, a year old. It stopped probably around a year and a half old. One of these days, his stuff was his penis was outside of his diaper. Do you realize how quickly I snapped out? How quickly I was like, oh no. No, whatever it takes for me to make sure that my children are secure, because they didn't ask to be in this world. And this is why you have to take care of yourself. This is why you literally have to take care of yourself. Love thy neighbor as you love yourself. Your child is also your neighbor. Okay? But if you don't love yourself, you will not love them efficiently as well. We think loving our children is, giving them everything they want, is taking them everywhere they want to go, or letting them stay up all night, letting them watch what the new kids be watching now, Bluey and Dora, and letting them have the tablet. We think that's love. We think it's love when we have these elaborate birthday parties. But if all of this is going on behind the scenes and they're not safe, it don't matter how good of a parent you thought you were. If they were not safe, if they did not feel like they could be protected, if they didn't feel like they could come to you and tell you what was going on, I don't care how many nice shoes you bought that baby could have Jordans on, or they could have Payless shoes on. Rest in peace, Payless, because what happened to Payless? Bring it back. But regardless of taking them on nice elaborate trips, if your child is not safe, when they get older, they're going to remember that. They're not going to remember, oh, mommy and daddy, they were there. They showed up to the school. They did all these activities with us. They played games with us, but I didn't feel safe. I didn't feel safe enough to tell my mother what was going on. I didn't feel safe enough to tell my father what was going on. If your children are having that feeling and they have to wait until they're adults and they've gone through some things to now come and tell them, it doesn't matter how good of a parent you think you are. Okay? And this is not to judge anybody. Okay, because I'm sitting here telling you that I missed the signs. Well, I saw the signs, but I didn't know how to articulate, or I didn't know how to properly know what was really going on behind the scenes. And so, but by the grace of God, my son is not affected by it to the degree that he could be. And so I thank God for covering him and keeping my daughter. And you know, it happens more regularly than we understand. And I know some of you, whoever's watching this, whether you're watching right now or you're watching a replay, some of you have dealt with it yourself, or some of you have been the person that has done it to another child in your childhood. I'm here to tell you right now that there is freedom. There's healing, there's deliverance for you, and that God wants to set you free of that shame, that condemnation, that guilt. God wants you to set you free. If you are a parent of a child that was raped or molested, or, you may have overlooked, or whatever the case may be, I'm here to set you free. I'm here to tell you that there is freedom in Christ. Just repent for not being aware. Repent for not understanding your position as the frontline defense of your children. Repent for not knowing. Okay? Forgive yourself. Okay? Don't let the enemy tell you that, oh yeah, you're homosexual, you like women, because let your reason why you like women be a legit reason, because you really like them. Okay, not because, oh, I just got this draw to them, a feeling to, you know what I'm saying? Like, I just, it's just something about the woman that I just like a woman, or like I have friends that are gay. I don't have a problem with them. I love them dearly. I love them. My gay friends are some of they better than the straight ones, if we're gonna be honest. And I don't ever want to make any of them feel bad. But like I had to tell one of my friends, let your reason be from the right place. If that is a genuine reason, if you are genuinely loving this person because you love them. I've heard before in my past too, oh, well, I like a woman because a woman knows what another woman knows. Women know what women want. That is the stupid is the stupid does, okay? Whether it's a woman or it's a man, okay? It could be a man treating you right, or it can be a woman treating you right. It does, let your reason be valid. Let your reason not stem from something else, is what I'm saying. And if it does, you need to correct it so that you're on the right pace and you're not just twiddling your thumbs and wasting time with a person that you genuinely, this is not what you really want. You just feel like this is where you should be. Okay? My oldest brother was gay. Or bisexual is what he said. And when he passed away, there was some books that the family found, and it just he talked about, it was poems, and he just briefly talked about his internal struggle with desiring a man and a woman. And so I want to encourage you guys to not go all the way back in. You know how like in the show Flash, where he would get to that in that one season. I stopped watching because it was just too good and I was getting addicted. I had to cut it off. But Flash would go into either the future or something like that, or into the past, and he would see what happened or whatever. Sometimes we have to peek in there, see what happened in our past. Is why it's important to get counseling and therapy and coaching and things of that nature, because we need to have an idea of the root cause, but we need to learn how to come out of it. Step out of that place. Once you've peeked in, got your information, took your notes, come out of that place. Because a lot of people are still living in the past. They're still living in that shame. They're still living in that bondage, and they went backwards and was recalling things. But there is a demonic spirit of recall that will have you recalling things, rehearsing things, and then you begin to live out the things that you are recalling and rehearsing as a reality. And this is why some people are living in delusion, because they are living in the past. You can only live in the present and have a clear picture of what's going on by looking back, but coming forward. Once you look back, you got to come forward. Okay, don't go back there to get the woe it's me and to feel bad about somebody. You have to look back to come forward. Okay, ask your questions, get the root issues, come back to the front, and let's keep moving forward. And so I hope this helped somebody today. I hope you guys are encouraged to share your story more often with people. Like, if this wasn't for you, share it with somebody else. You never know what people are going through. You never know what weighs a person down. You never know what's causing a person to tick. This is why it's important to put in your prayer life that the Lord will help you be kind. Okay? Doesn't mean, like Apostle Tommy said, being kind and being polite are two different things. You can be polite and still be rude. But kindness is a state of being. It's a way of doing things. It's an expression. You know, when you go to Chick-fil-A, lately Chick-fil-A people, they've been polite, but they ain't been very kind. But you go to Chick-fil-A, you know, you know what to expect, right? And so when you have developed a lifestyle of kindness, walls begin to come down on people. When you're kind to somebody, you begin to care on a deeper level. And that is how we get to that point where we love our neighbor as we love ourselves. But we first must be kind to ourselves and give ourselves some grace and say, hey, I didn't know. I didn't know what I didn't know. And now I know what I know. And now I need to move forward. Okay. Don't let the enemy keep rehashing things in your head. I'm telling you, it is a tactic to distract you. It is a tactic to get you off course. It is a tactic to make you self-loathe. It is a tactic to pull you into depression, anxiety, fear, worry. I mean, listen, it goes on and on and on. Okay. I was gonna wrap. But yes, that is my TED Talk for today. I wanted to share that with you guys. I do have some more videos up on my YouTube channel. I think I have one more video pertaining to this that I did back in 2018. I mean, it's important that we are our children's guardians, and even if you don't have children and you're around children, you should be the same way. Aunties are important, grandparents are important, friends are important, godparents. We all play a role. It really does take a village to raise a child. And when you think about raising a child, it's not in the sense of I need to finance this child. It is in a sense of, if I see a child in danger, I'm not just going to sit there and be like, oh, she's in danger. I'm going to act as well. Okay. I'm going to take on this child as if they're my own. That's what I do. I hold true to that. Wherever I go, I'm in public places. I see kids and they're wandering away from their parents. They're playing in between the clothes. I immediately be like, where your mama at? Go get your parent. I'm like, you get over there. And they run and get it. But I might have just saved that little child's life. You don't have to like me. But if I see your child run down the street, I'm gonna snatch him up. I'm like, hey, get out that street. You know what I'm saying? That is important to the sanctity, the sanity of a parent. Is to know, because I can't look back here, over there, and I'm trying to do this, and I'm trying to do this, I'm trying to be that, and I'm trying to go here. Society telling me I gotta work and be a present parent and go to all their games and not be tired and wake up early in the morning. And that's a lot. It takes a village. Okay? Make sure your village is tried and tested and true, purified. Make sure your village is sent from God. Because just as much as God sends people, so does the enemy. Okay, so I hope this blesses you and has helped give you some insights to maybe your own issues growing up in childhood with sexuality and, sex, with the way things are going right now. Like, I have to tell my kids that, there are some men that used to be men, but now are women. And there are some women that used to be women that are now are men. And so the conversations are starting to look different. And so it is important that we stay vigilant. It is important that we are kind as well while we're being vigilant. We're kind to ourselves. We forgive ourselves, and we learn how to move forward. Look back, then come forward. That's it. Get what you need to get back there. Get your information, talk to grandma, talk to your auntie, uncle, cousin, sister, whoever's around you, talk to your parents, ask them how you were as a child. So if you're starting to see things in your kids, you know how to nip it in the butt early on, okay? So I love you guys, and I'll be back on here with another topic as the Lord leads. If you are not saved and you would like to join the family, become a believer, please, by all means, it is just a decision to say that, Lord, I believe that your son died. You sent your son to save us. He died on the cross for my sins so that I may have everlasting life. And if you need someone to walk you through that, or you want to repent, or you want to rededicate your life, shoot me a DM. We'll work this thing out together. But I love you guys. And I will, if you need someone to talk to on, related to topics like this, I am an ICF certified life coach. So if you need someone to talk to, I do have life coaching sessions available. You can go to my website, ashleyamsturgis.com. Get all the information there. I would love to talk to you, or you can send me an inbox and I can just send you that list there. But pay attention to your children. Pay attention to their behavioral changes. Don't call them bad. Children are not bad. They're untrained, or they are tampered with. Okay. So take your time, love on your children, love on yourself, forgive others, let go, move on, be who you need to be, and nothing less. So this is your girl, Ashley Sturgis. Bye.